Bing, boing, bing. Everybody has a story to tell with Toddie One Skip. Good morning, guys. This is Everybody Has a Story to Tell with Toddie One Skip. I am Toddie One Skip. So you guys know I have another channel, Issues with Toddie One Skip. This channel, it just covers more of the humane stuff, I guess. More of the stuff that we have in common as individuals. I hate defining my channels because they take on a life of their own. I wanted to talk about, well, just a scheme of things, but basically talking about the year and a half or so that I've been talking about this case, the Gypsy Rose case, and what I've experienced and what I've learned and what became of the case and all of that. Join me. So as we know, Gypsy got off parole, and I totally feel like she got away with unaliving her mom with a smack on the wrist and a given alibi. And we've seen that through the FOIAs. We've seen that, and it can't be denied. It's true. It's just too late. It's too late for them to open something up, or they don't want to open something up. Where there's a will, there's a way, but if there's no will, there's no way. So I think that in the case of Gypsy, unfortunately, she'll end up back where she ends up because that's just her. And she didn't learn anything because she hasn't gone through any process of learning anything. She will be a train wreck for the rest of her life because I don't think that there's any repairing somebody like Gypsy. I think that she is evil to the core, damage to the soul, and that's my opinion of her. There's only been one other person that I honestly have felt that way about. That being said, as far as what Gypsy does with her life, it's going to be the chaos that she enjoys. Magic in the chaos. She loves that shit. She doesn't seem to want peace in her life. She hasn't shown that. To really rub it in our faces, Gypsy took those letters, and I totally blame Fancy Maselli. I do. Fancy Maselli got Dawn Boker involved. Had Fancy not reached out to Dawn and had Dawn manipulate a situation, and we've seen the proof that she did do that. We've seen that. Go back in videos about Fancy's dirty deeds and shit. We've seen that. I'm not the only one that reported on it, but we've seen it. Dawn Boker wouldn't have come into play. Those that don't know the story, Fancy Maselli, a content creator, Good Wives Network, whatever. When I first came on this story, Fancy had reached out to me. We had corresponded very briefly. And then I thought she did something wrong by her subscribers by asking them for money and then yelling at them. That was when I had had enough. She had always been a little unhinged, but just treating her subscribers that way, and even my subscribers that way, I got offended by that, and I wanted nothing to do with her. I saw who she was, and she has proven who she was at every point now. She tried to create a scenario because she was working for Gypsy, and to create that scenario, she had people infiltrate Nick. It was the Nick infiltration group. It is, again, on my other channel in the videos you can see. So Dawn Boker was a pawn in a game that Nick was the victim in once again. Somebody incarcerated, he was minding his own business, but Fancy wanted to poke the bear. And now look at how that's really affected Nick. So Fancy is a content creator, in my opinion, that tries to create content by making things happen. Therefore, it's either illegal or not real, in my opinion. And Gypsy wouldn't have been able to show us the letters that Dawn manipulated Nick into writing. Care of Fancy. But that is what Gypsy got to say on the last day of her parole. When she got off parole, she shared with us the horrible letters that Nick was manipulated into writing, because we already know Nick didn't know anything about role play or BDSM, about fantasies and dressing up as other people and taking on personalities. We know that Gypsy knew that with Dan, and that was long before Nick. I mean, we know this. However Gypsy wants to play it, whoever wants to believe that's just the way it's going to be. To me, it's really, really sad, because she got away with unaliving her mom. She got away with murder in front of everybody. And it makes us question the justice system. And then when you add the peripherals, you add the people that helped Gypsy, I'm puzzled. I know that there are cults all over the world. And I believe that Gypsy definitely has the power to begin one. I think she has one going. The fact that maybe they're not calling themselves that. But when they work to just satisfy one being and disregard everything else, like disregard their morals and values and all of that, everything goes on the wayside. They just think about how to make this one person happy, how to shine in their eyes. That's a cult leader. So the peripherals I was talking about, like Bree, that's a stan. She's following a cult. She has given up everything that seems to be important to her because she wants the crusade of Gypsy. That other person, Sheena, somebody nothing in their life, just wants to, I don't know, support a mommy unaliver. And Boston, who reached out to me, that became friendly with me, but I didn't help her channel grow, so I'm a bad person. I'm a horrible person because of that. I was on her shit list because she wanted me to believe in her more than she believed in her. I don't do that. Believe in yourself. And you know why? Because, here's my opinion on it. Because there's very few people out there that honestly are supporting her, and Gypsy picks those ones. They're easy to pick because there's not a lot out there. And she picks the weakest ones, in my opinion, so that she can manipulate them. That's Gypsy's MO. I'm only going by her MO. If that's not who these people are, well, they fit right into her MO. So I want you to understand that. I want you to see that Gypsy picks and pays attention. That's why she's in all the comments and stuff. She's trying to see who her loyal supporters are so that she may manipulate her loyal supporters. She wants to see what each one of them can do for her, because that's how Gypsy rolls. That's who she is. Anybody that can do anything for her. And if you're used and abused like that and want to be part of that, then yes, that's very cult-like behavior. Will that be the new career of Gypsy Rose Blanchard? Trust me, if she could figure out a way to do it, it would be her new career. And I wouldn't put it past her to figure out a way to do it. Guys, the saddest bit about this is two things. One is that Dee Dee's legacy, it doesn't exist anymore in the family. So Aurora, who, that's another story, won't hear any good things about her grandmother. It's like this woman never was on earth and did anything kind or nice. So I'm hopeful that the people that honestly knew Dee Dee in that neighborhood on Volunteer Way or Lane or Road or whatever it was, that they can tell stories. But when you look at the peripherals there and you see, you just, you know, I feel at some point everybody was against Dee Dee. Like her next door neighbors too, the ones that went into the house. You know how Gypsy has all the luck? I feel like Dee Dee had none of the luck. Like absolutely none of the luck. She sacrificed her life I can't imagine her trying to find somebody to be with and have Gypsy be the stepdaughter of that person. So if she found happiness in eating and she let herself go, which is something that Christy Blanchard had said, because they couldn't, I guess Dee Dee had issues with her weight. She took care of a sick girl. That's not fake. That's not make-believe. That exists. The Munchausen by proxy does not exist. That can't exist, because the only way it would exist is if it was diagnosed with the living person there, not by a deceased person, and certainly not by a deceased person whose person that they were taking care of unalived them and ended up being legitimately sick. Because see, that's what happened here. Because we know Gypsy Rose Blanchard was a very sick child. Very, very sick child. And she underwent many, many tests to find out what was wrong with her. And for a while, it was fruitless. They couldn't find anything. They knew that something was wrong with her, but you also remember Gypsy and her little imagination and her want for everything and needing everything. She screamed, "My legs hurt! My head hurts! I'm not hungry! I can't eat that! Let me spit this up! Let me spit that up! Give me more attention! Give me this! Give me that!" That's Gypsy. And her mom bought right into it, because there were legitimacies to what Gypsy really had. And she had a microdeletion. But the things like the swallowing, the breathing tube, the feeding tube, the sleep apnea, all of that stuff, legitimate. The many surgeries Gypsy had, bullshit. She has 4 scars. She claims to have over 40 surgeries. She claimed to have chemo. She claimed to have this. She claimed to have that. But there was nothing. She left that house with nothing. She had nothing. She knew exactly who she was. And you have to remember, the only time Gypsy said that she was sick was when they said, "You're under arrest." She never said anything bad about her mom until much later than that. Remember that? This is the whole story. This is just looking at it. There was no alibi. Supposedly, it was supposed to be like where Nick DRUGGED'd Gypsy. Somebody, they scoured the internet and they came up with Munchausen by proxy so that Gypsy could get off. Why? Because the way she looked good to the DA who wanted to get reelected. And that's as simple as that. How could we throw somebody as little as Gypsy Rose with that high-pitched voice? We'll get the real monster. In the meantime, the real monster, the manipulator, the Manson, Gypsy. We find this out later. We find out much of it by Gypsy, because Gypsy can't keep her story straight. So with every time Gypsy opens her mouth, the story about something very specific becomes second story, third story, fourth side of the story, and the stories never match up. And because of that, we start questioning. And we start questioning online. And we start having conversations together. Because it doesn't make any sense. After we dig in and start talking and start meeting other content creators, that's what happens. And you find out who's on side, who's really working the story, who cares about justice, or who's just blowing smoke up people's ass. That's what we do, right? And Dee Dee's gone, and her memory is fading, and her legacy is shot. And Gypsy wants no more to do with it. I am not paying for this anymore. As if she can wipe off the M word. You will have it forever. You are a convicted M word. You will always be that. And you will always be discriminated because of that. There will be things that you will not be able to do because of that. You will pay for that forever. It's too bad. And I don't understand why in her mind and in her heart there isn't anything that seems to bother her about the unaliving of her mom. And to me, if it did, she would show us, because that's what a lot of us want. Just to know that she appreciated this woman that obviously gave her life for her daughter. But no, she doesn't even get that. She doesn't get that. So now that Gypsy's off parole, now that it's the end of Nick, and I believe that it's probably the end of Nick, I don't see the appeal going anywhere. I wish. You know, I don't know if they have our letters. I don't know. You know, I know nothing. I don't talk to NPG Cornerstone. I never want to talk to them. They tell untruths. I can't. I don't want to. And I don't have to. So, you know, when somebody gets on my channel or somebody gets on my gets into my face and lies to me face to face, that's all they get. They don't get a second chance at that. Been there, done that. So I think that Gypsy has something to do with NPG Cornerstone. I don't know that Fancy and Gypsy ever stopped working together. All of the people that ended up being shitty remain shitty, even though this case is over. A year and a half, and I would have liked to have seen her go back. I would have liked to have seen Nick get an appeal. I would have liked to have seen Dee Dee's legacy get what I think it deserves. But sometimes we don't get what we want. But I don't think Dee Dee got what she deserved. And I think over history and over time, and over Gypsy's own behavior and everybody's own behavior, the Blanchard's own behavior, you'll see exactly who they are. I don't know how much I'm going to report on that. Guys, it's important that we've come across some not nice people, let's be fair, but we've come across some great people too, some really talented content creators, people that wanted justice for Dee Dee, people that wanted some sort of justice for Nick, people that wanted Gypsy to be held accountable, people that wanted to see Gypsy feel something. You know, maybe it's not everybody's place to think of what somebody owes their mom. But when you put it out on mainstream media and you make movies and documentaries after it, we get to have a say-so about it. And I personally feel that Dee Dee Blanchard was taking care of a very sick girl, that being Gypsy. And I think some of it was legitimate and some of it was not legitimate. But the part that was not legitimate was the stuff that Gypsy was saying to her mom. You remember that it was said that Gypsy had told her mom that she had no feeling in her legs, and when she did get feeling back, she never told her mom because she didn't want to lose her mom's affection. But Gypsy was her mom's whole world, according to Gypsy. And the fact that we saw so many great pictures of Gypsy and Dee Dee enjoying life, you know, enjoying life, that's what it was. You can't fake those smiles. Toothless as they were, and we know who Gypsy is. Gypsy's manipulation and Gypsy's imagination, that's been in the making for years, previous to the death of her mom. We know this, because where did it come from? It just didn't come about. We knew it existed before Nick. And that's the second thing. The second thing that really bothers me is Nick. Nick, who was online looking for love. Nick, who only used to make videos of himself dancing and turning people on to the music that he liked. Just this geeky looking kid who was looking for love online and found Gypsy, who already had a plan for him, already knew his fate. I believe that. So, as Gypsy's gotten off parole and is free as much as she can be, she'll never be completely. And she'll always wear what she did. That will always be. And Nick will probably remain in prison for the rest of his life. And that's just the way the system happened to work. And Dee Dee's memory, it should go on in family. I guess stops at the generation it's at. A huge concern is that the justice system failed. The justice system failed here. For whatever reason, it failed here, and it failed blatantly in front of many, many, many people. All of Gypsy's debacles when she was on parole, all of Gypsy's misbehaviors when she was on parole, all of Gypsy's just misbehaviors when it comes to morals and values. The way she picked Nick is exactly the way she picked Ryan. Just somebody to fit a very specific need and want. And that continues on with her today. I thoroughly believe that, 100%. Guys, this is Everybody Has a Story to Tell with Toddie One Skip. And I just wanted to encapsulate this whole journey that I was on, what it felt like, the things that we learned and disappointments, and just a reflection, more or less. Everybody does have a story to tell, but nobody takes the time to listen until now. Thank you, guys. Bing, boing, bing. Everybody has a story to tell with Toddie One Skip.